Today we're going to continue working on how to find missing angle measures. So we're going to start by looking at these three angles. And what we should look at when we first look at these angles is what is the relationship between these. What I notice for this first problem is that there is this box. And we know that that box means that these angles represent a right angle, or that means that they equal 90 degrees. Because of that, I know that these are complementary angles. So because I know that they are complementary angles, I know that angle ABC, which is 50 degrees, when added to angle CBD, which I don't know what it is, will give me 90 degrees. So I can make an equation for that where I would say 50 plus, and because I don't know what this angle is, I'll give it a variable of x, equals 90. So I would subtract 50 from both sides, and I would get x equals 40. So that means that this angle is 40 degrees. This, when it looks like this actually says the measure of angle CBD. CBD is this angle that goes from C to B and then to D. So it's this angle right here, and that angle measures 40 degrees. For your next problem, it's asking for us to find the measure of angle FEG. So we want to know the measure of the angle that goes from F to E to G. So that's this one. Well, what is this? Well, when I look at these angles, what I notice is that to get from D all the way to G, this is actually a straight line. Every straight line has a measure of 180 degrees. So the straight line is cut up by this one ray. But I know that both of these angles, so this one, which is 150, plus this one together, should give me the value of this straight line, which is 180 degrees. So what I know about these two angles is that they are supplementary because together they will add up to 180. So to figure out our missing angle, I would say 150 because that's what angle DEF is, plus, now I don't know what FEG is, so I would write a variable x equals 180 because I know that together both of these will equal 180. Then to find x, I would subtract 150 from both sides. These would cancel and leave me with x. 180 minus 150 is 30. So that means that this missing measure is 30 degrees. Well, that is the measure of angle FEG. So it is 30 degrees. Now for this problem, what I notice is that I have two intersecting lines. So I have line JLN, which intersects or crosses line MLK or KLM. This tells me that angle JLK is 45 degrees. And the question is asking for the measure of angle MLN. So M to L to N is right here. So I want to know, what is this angle? Well, I need to know the relationship between the two angles that I have. What I know is that they are across from each other or opposite of each other, and they're formed by intersecting lines. Because of that, that makes these vertical angles. All vertical angles are always congruent, and congruent is just another word for equal. So if this angle measures 45 degrees and it's vertical to this angle, that means this angle also equals 45 degrees. So the measure of angle MLN is 45 degrees. Now let's look at some more problems. So let's start with this one. We have angle ABD and angle DBC. And we need to find out, actually for this, what is the value of x? Because I don't know either of these angle measures. Well, what I do know is that to get from A all the way to C, that's a straight line. Because that's a straight line, these two angles together should equal 180 degrees, which means that these are supplementary. Well, to figure out what the value of x is, I would need to make an equation where I show that this angle added to this angle is going to give me 180 degrees. So to do that, I'm going to say 2x, because that's my first angle, plus x plus 24, because that's my second angle, equals 180. To solve, the first thing that I need to do is to combine like terms. On this side of my equation, I can combine 2x plus x. And remember, if I don't see anything in front of the x, there's actually an invisible 1. So 2x plus 1x is 3x. 24 doesn't have a like term, so I'm just going to rewrite plus 24, and then it equals 180. Now I can solve like a normal equation. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of this 24. I'll do the inverse of adding 24, which is subtracting 24 on both sides. So 24 minus 24 will cancel, and on this side of the equation, I'm left with 3x. On this side of my equation, I'm going to do 180 minus 24, which gives me 156. Now x is still not by itself, so I need to get rid of the 3. So the inverse of multiplying by 3, which is what 3x means, 3 times x, the inverse of that is going to be dividing by 3, which I'm going to do on both sides of the equation. Those are going to cancel and leave me with x. And then I do 156 divided by 3. And when I do 156 divided by 3, I get x equals 52. So that means x is 52. Now, if all I had to do was find x, then I would be done. But this problem also wants me to find the measure of angle ABD and the measure of angle DBC. Well, I can use what I just learned, which is that x equals 52, to figure out what those angles measure. So angle ABD is right here, and for angle ABD, it equals 2x, which means 2 times x. But what I just found is that x is actually 52. So I can plug in 52 for x to figure out what this angle equals. Instead of 2 times x, I'm going to say 2 times 52, since I know that x is 52, and that is 104. So that means that the measure of angle ABD is 104 degrees. Now I can do the same thing to find the measure of angle DBC, and angle DBC is x plus 24. Because I know that x is 52, I'm going to say 52 plus 24, and when I do 52 plus 24, I get 76. So angle DBC is 76 degrees. Now for our next problem, what we notice is that we have these two angles, and there's also this box, which tells us that both of these angles make a right angle together. That means that they are complementary, or when you add the two angles together, they equal 90 degrees. So to figure out what y equals, I'm going to take angle EFG, which is this one, and angle GFH, which is this one, and I'm going to add them together and set them equal to 90 degrees. So angle EFG is y minus 32, and I'm going to add that to angle GFH, which is y. And because they're complementary, I know that together they will equal 90 degrees. Now all I have to do is combine my like terms. So I have y plus y, which is 2y. And then I have minus 32, which doesn't have a like term, so I'll just rewrite it as minus 32 equals 90. Now to get y by itself, the first thing I need to do is add 32 on both sides of my equation. Negative 32 plus 32 will cancel and leave me with 2y. 90 plus 32 is 122. Now to get y by itself, I need to divide by 2 on both sides. 2 over 2 will cancel and leave me with y equals, and 122 divided by 2 is 61. So that means that the value of y is 61. Now I'm going to use that to find the measure of angle EFG and the measure of angle GFH. I know that EFG is y minus 32, but because I know that y is 61, I can plug that in for y, and I can say 61 minus 32. And when I do 61 minus 32, I get 29. So that means the measure of angle EFG is 29 degrees. Now I can also use this to find the measure of angle GFH. I know that GFH is actually equal to y. And since I already found y, I know that they're the same thing, so this angle is 61 degrees. For our next problem, I notice that I have two intersecting lines, and I notice that I need to find W. Well, I have the value of PRQ, which is right here, and it's 38 degrees. I also have the value of angle TRS, which is right here, and it's 5W minus 7 degrees. I know that these two angles are opposite of each other, and they're created by intersecting lines, which makes them vertical angles. And what I need to remember about vertical angles is that they are always congruent. So because this angle equals 38 degrees, I know this angle also equals 38 degrees. To figure out what W equals, all I would do is make an equation that says that. So because I know that this angle is equal to this angle, I will write that as an equation where 38 is equal to 5W minus 7. And then I'll solve like normal. So I'll add 7 on both sides of this equation. 38 plus 7 is 45. The negative 7 plus positive 7 cancels and leaves me with 5W. Then I divide by 5 on both sides. 45 divided by 5 is 9. These 5's cancel and leave me with W. So that means W is equal to 9. And then it asks for the measure of angle TRS. Now, I can plug in 9 for TRS, or for W, I'm sorry. So I can say 5 times W, or 5 times 9, and then minus 7. 5 times 9 is 45, and 45 minus 7 gives me 38. Or I can also recognize that because these are vertical angles, since this one measured 38 degrees, this one will also measure 38 degrees. So I can just recognize that they're vertical, so they are congruent, and that one will automatically be 38 degrees. All right, so for this one, I'm going to show you these quickly. So for our first problem, these are supplementary, which means I know that both of these together will add up to 180. And I know they're supplementary because they are on this straight line. So if I do x minus 8 and I add it to 3x, I know that they will equal 180. I combine my like terms. 1x plus 3x is 4x. Minus 8 doesn't have a like term, so I rewrite it. Now, to get my x by itself, I'm going to add 8 on both sides. These will cancel and leave me with 4x equals 180 plus 8 is 188. Then I divide by 4 on both sides. These cancel. Then I'm going to do 188 divided by 4, and that leaves me with 47. So x is equal to 47. To find the measure of angle ABD, so ABD is from here to here to here, so that's x minus 8. I'm going to plug in 47 for x, so this is 47 minus 8. And when I do 47 minus 8, I get 39. So the measure of angle ABD is 39 degrees. To find the measure of angle DBC, so that's from D to B to C, that's 3x. So that means 3 times x, and I know that x is 47. So I'm going to do 3 times 47, which gives me 141. So the measure of angle DBC is 141 degrees. For our next problem, I know that these are complementary because this tells me that they make a right angle. So I know that together, when I add them, I should get 90 degrees. So I will write an equation that says 2y, which is this one, plus y plus 15 equals 90 degrees. Combine my like terms, 2y plus 1y is 3y. Positive 15 doesn't have a like term, so I rewrite it, equals 90. Now I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. These will cancel and leave me with 3y equals 90 minus 15 is 75. Then I divide by 3 on both sides. These will cancel and leave me with y equals, and 75 divided by 3 is 25. So the value of y is 25. Then to figure out what each angle measure is, so EFG is from here to here to here, which is 2y. That's 2 times y, but we just found that y is 25. So it's 2 times 25, which is 50 degrees. Then for GFH, that's y plus 15. Again, we just found that y is 25, so we'll do 25 plus 15, which is 40. So the measure of angle GFH is 40 degrees. For this last one, again, I see intersecting lines. So I know that the opposite angles are going to be congruent to each other. So I know that this angle is 127, and that is equal to this angle. So I know that this angle equals 127. So I can go ahead and say that right now. Now, I'm also going to figure out what does W equal. So if I know that this is equal to this, my equation will say 2W plus 17 equals 127. I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. These will cancel and leave me with 2W equals 127 minus 17 is 110. Then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. Those will cancel and leave me with W equals, and 110 divided by 2 is 55. So W equals 55. The last thing we're going to look at is a set of all vertical angles. So if I look at this first problem, I see that 80 degrees is vertical to Z. That means that Z equals 80 degrees. The problem with that is that I can't figure out X and Y because I don't know what either of them are. What I can do is I can ignore Y and Z for right now, and I can look at just 80 and X. And what I know about them is that they are on this straight line. So together, they would equal 180 degrees. So to figure out what X is, I would say 80 plus X equals 180. And I would subtract 80 from both sides of my equation, and I would get X equals 100. So X is 100 degrees. Well, if I know that X is 100 degrees, then I can come down here and figure out that Y is also 100 degrees because they are vertical to each other, and vertical angles are always congruent. For this next one, I can see that this angle is 62 degrees, and it is opposite of angle X. That means that angle X is also 62 degrees. And then I can use what I know, which is that angle Y and 62 are on this straight line, and this straight line has a measure of 180. So to figure out what Y equals, I know that I would add Y to 62, and I would get 180. So to get Y by itself, I would subtract 62 from both sides, and I would get Y equals 118. If I know that y is 118 degrees, it is opposite of z, so it is also 118 degrees because they are vertical angles and they are congruent. So for the last one, or second to last, I'm sorry, this angle is 53 degrees. It is opposite of y, so that means y is also 53 degrees. To figure out what x is, I know that these two angles together create a straight line, so x plus 53 equals 180. Subtract 53 from both sides. These cancel and I get x equals. So when I do 180 minus 53, I get 127. So x is 127 degrees. Because x is 127 and it's opposite of z, or vertical to z, that means they are congruent, so z also equals 127 degrees. And for our last one, 49 degrees is vertical to z, so z is 49 degrees. To figure out what x is, I know that these two angles together equal 180 because they're on a straight line. So if I do x plus 49, I'm going to get 180. So I would subtract 49 from both sides. These would cancel and I would get x equals 131. So x is equal to 131 and x is vertical to y, so y also equals 131.